Collier explains
ordering fractions.
As we know, there are so many examples of fractions being used in everyday life. Today's example is from farming mechanics. A farm mechanic maintains agricultural machinery such as harvesters and irrigation pumps. Fraction skills are essential as many components are manufactured with fractional measurements. This is not just in farming mechanics, but many trades. So a cover plate is 6 1/4 inch long by 4 3/8 inches wide, which means they're using fractions all the time. All right, you know how to order numbers. Like if I gave you this set of numbers right here, you would know how to put them in order. Granted, you need to know which order I want you to put them in, so we need to recap two words, ascending and descending. Ascending means going up in value, and descending means going down, D for down. So if I had to put these numbers in order, in ascending order, I would start with the smallest number and I would go along until I had them all in order, from smallest to largest. And descending is going down. And obviously that is just the backwards. In today's unit, we're going to learn how to order fractions. Now, it's sometimes a bit trickier because we know that they can have different denominators and be representing different sizes. And so therefore, in order to do that, we're actually going to use our knowledge of equivalent fractions, which we have learned about already, to do that. All right, these are some of the key ideas we're going to need to remember going into this unit. First of all, to order fractions, we need to know how to compare them. We need to figure it out using equivalent fractions. We also need to know about the lowest common denominator. 3 words, lowest, that's easy, common, we know what that means, and denominator is obviously the number underneath. And then there's 2 words we just spoke about, ascending meaning going up and descending meaning going down. There are some situations where it's pretty easy to compare fractions, and that is whenever we have numbers that are the same in the numerator or the same in the denominator. Let's take a look. So if the numerators are the same, then the smallest fraction is the one that has the biggest denominator. Let's look why. We'll see here that we each have the numerator 1, which means we've got 1 piece. But if I think about 1/7, I've got this cake and I've cut it up into 7 pieces. Or I've got a cake and I split it in half. Now, you know me, I'm definitely going to want the piece that comes from the half cake because that piece is way bigger. So if we think about it, the half piece is larger than the 7th piece, because even though I've got 1 piece of cake in each situation, my half cake is way larger. All right, what about if the denominators are the same? We've got the situation, cake is cut up into 10 pieces each. This one's a bit more obvious because if I've got 3 pieces of cake or I've got 7 pieces of cake and all the pieces are the same size, then it's kind of obvious that 7 is larger than 3. So if I have the numerators or the denominator is the same number, it's really easy to compare. All right, we're going to do some work with comparing fractions. It says place the correct mathematical symbol, which we will remember this is less than, equals sign, or greater than, in between the following pairs of fractions to make a true mathematical statement. So first I have to compare 2/5 and 4/5. Well, I see that my denominators are the same, and I've got 2 or 4, and 4 is larger. So I'm going to put that symbol in there to signify that 4/5 is larger than 2/5. B, 1/3 or 1/5. I can see that my numerators are the same, but my pieces of cake have been cut up into different sizes. Now, I always like to think of it as it's backwards. If my cake is cut up into more pieces, my pieces are going to be smaller. So therefore, 1/3 is larger than 1/5. Now I've got 2/3 and 3/5. This one, none of them are the same, which means I need to do a little bit of working. I've got 2/3 and I've got 3/5. Now I'm going to figure out what the lowest common multiple is, and I've figured out that my lowest common denominator is going to be 15. So for this fraction, I am multiplying it by 5, and this fraction I'm multiplying by 3. And 2 times 5 is 10, and 3 times 3 is 9. Now that I've got the same denominator, it's really easy to compare the numerators And I can see that 10/15 is larger than 9/15. All right, my last one is D, and I can see that it's got a mixed number in it. So first I need to convert it into an improper fraction. It's going to make it easier for me. So 2 times 7 is 14, plus 3 is 17/7, and I've got 16/7. Now have the same denominators, so really easy to see. 17 pieces of cake is bigger than 16 pieces of cake, so therefore 2 3/7 is larger. You try some. All right, let's quickly do these together. I have 4/7 and 2/7. The denominators are the same, and therefore 4 is larger than 2, so 4/7 is larger. I've got 5, 6, and 2/3. These two are different, and so I'm going to, hold on. All right, these two are different, so I'm going to have to multiply by the lowest common multiple to get the same denominator. I can see that I can multiply this second fraction by 2 and get them both to be on a denominator of 6. Now that they're the same, I can see 5 is larger than 4. Same with C, I'm going to have to make them a common denominator. I can see that if I simplify these fractions, divide this one by 2 and this one by 3, now I have a common denominator, and they are actually exactly equal. So I'm going to put in the equal sign there. Lastly, D, I'm converting 1 times 9 is 9, plus 2 is 11. 11/9 and 23/18. I'm going to multiply this by 2, and that is going to give me 22/18. And therefore 23/18 is bigger. All right, now we're going to try ordering some fractions. So I'm going to place the following fractions in ascending order, meaning going up. So I need to remember that. All right, first of all, I can see that they all have different denominators, which means it's too hard to kind of analyze them. So I'm going to convert them all to have the same denominator. I need to find the lowest common multiple. One of the ways, if I've only got like 3 numbers and they're kind of small, is I can multiply them all together. And 3 times 5 is 15 and times 4 is 60. So I know that I can get them all to be over 60. So think, what number times 4 equals 60? That's 15. 3 times 15 is 45. What number times 5 equals 60? That's 12. And 4 times 12 is 48. And what number times 3 equals 60? And that's 20. And 20 times 2 is 40. Now that they all have the same denominator, I can easily put them in order, going from smallest to largest. However, once I've done that, I do need to return them to simplest form. Good news is I don't have to calculate that again in my head. I just need to look back at my originals and figure out which one relates to what. So 40/60 was the last one, so that's 2/3. 45/60 was the first one, 3/4. And then I have 4/5. That's them in order. B, I have to do a bit of converting into improper fractions first. So 1 times 5 is 5, plus 3 is 8. And then I've got my 7/4, my 3/2. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And 11/5. For all of these, I can actually see that 5 times 4 is 20, and because that's an even number, 2 fits into it. So 20 is actually my lowest common denominator. So to get from 5 to 20 is times by 4. 8 times 4 is 32. 4 to 20 is times by 5. 7 times 5 is 35. 2 to 20 is times by 10. Times by 5 again is 45. And then times by 4 is 44. And now I can put them in order. If you struggle to figure out afterwards which one is which, you can use different colors, or you can draw lines. If you write them underneath, that may help you. But remember, we always need to return it to its simplest form. So we always need to write them back the way they were at the start. Which means for these ones, I also have to write the mixed numbers as mixed numbers. You try some. Let's quickly do them together. For A, my lowest common denominator is 12. And so timesing by 3 would be 9, times by 2 is 4, times by 6 is 6. 4/12, convert it back is 2 6. A half is next, and 3/4. For B, I'm quickly going to convert it to a mixed number. And for B, I can see that my lowest common denominator is 8. So I'm going to quickly convert them all to 8. Now that I have them all converted to the denominator of 8, I can easily put them in order. I'm going to convert them straight back as I put them in order. So now you can see I've put them in order. I hope now, when you see two fractions, you know how to decide which one is larger, and if you find a group of fractions, you would know how to put them in order in ascending or descending.